Hello my dear learners, welcome to Learn Microbiology. To this another video on what next after BSc Microbiology. In this video, we will be solving the GATB mock test section A biology questions. This is the part 1 of the video. Let's get started with solving the first question. A 300 base pair long B form of DNA has 20 complete turns. This DNA molecule is positively supercoiled, negatively supercoiled, relaxed or cannot be predicted. Students, this question is about the supercoiling of DNA. Before understanding the supercoiling of DNA, let's have a look on the structure of a DNA. We know a DNA is a double helical structure. It is comprising of alternating sugar phosphate backbones. Both the strands of the DNA are anti-parallel. They are also complementary. Each of the strands are composed of nucleotides which are made of these 4 nitrogen bases that are adenine, thymine, cytosine and guanine, and we can find complementary base pairs on the opposite strands. Like as we can see here, adenine pairs with thymine, cytosine pairs with guanine. There is 2 hydrogen bonds between adenine and thymine and 3 hydrogen bonds between our cytosine and guanine. Now let us understand about DNA supercoiling. DNA supercoiling is an important biological process which helps in compacting your DNA. It is going to affect biological processes such as DNA metabolism and gene expression. A supercoiled DNA is more compact than a relaxed DNA of the same length. Supercoiling can be understood with the help of this image. As we can see here, the double-stranded DNA has formed various twists around itself, and if we count the number of twists, it comes out to be 25. Since in the question we are asked about a plasmid DNA, we know plasmid DNA is circular in structure because the opposite ends of this DNA has linked together. There are 3 important terms we need to remember about supercoiling. One is LK, that is your linking number, TW, that is the number of twists, and WR, that is the number of width. Now linking number is equals to twist plus width. We have understood the twist. Now what is a width? Width is formed when this twisted DNA again coils around itself. So twist is the number of helical turns in the DNA and width is the number of times the double helix crosses or turns around itself. Now, extra helical twists are known as positive and that lead to positive supercoiling, while subtractive twisting causes negative supercoiling. Also, a right-handed coil is assigned a negative number and it is known as a negative supercoiling, while a left-handed coil is assigned a positive number and it is known as the positive supercoiling. Most naturally occurring DNA molecules are negatively supercoiled. Now why so? Because negative supercoiling arises from the unbinding of the DNA. Negative supercoiling will prepare your DNA for processes like separation of the DNA strands such as replication or transcription. As we know, during the processes like replication and transcription, our DNA molecules is unbound with the help of our helicase enzyme. And why does it happen so? Only then our transcription factors or our replication factors as well as our polymerase enzyme can bind to our DNA. So hence our DNA is always in the form of a negative supercoiled. There are 3 forms of DNA. One is your A DNA, B DNA and your Z DNA. A DNA and your B DNA has a right-handed coiling while your Z DNA has a left-handed coiling. As in the given question, we have been provided with a B form of the plasmid DNA. If you consider a B form of a plasmid DNA, in a relaxed double helical segment of your B DNA, the 2 strands twist around the helical axis once every 10.5 base pairs of sequence. It means there are 10.5 bases per turn of this helix in case of your B DNA. So if we consider this is our 1 turn, you can find around 10.5 base pairs. As in the given question, this plasmid DNA has a total of 300 base pairs and it has 20 complete turns. Now what we need to find is we need to find the number of base pairs that this particular DNA possesses per complete turn. And how we can do that? We can do that simply by dividing 300 by 20 and we get 15. As we can see here, 15 base pair per turn is more than the normal relaxed DNA. So hence we can say the provided plasmid DNA is positively supercoiled since it is having some extra turns. I hope you might have understood this question. Let us move ahead to the next question. Question number 11. Which one of the following sequence is a palindrome? Palindromic sequence is a nucleic acid sequence in a double-stranded DNA or an RNA molecule wherein in a certain direction, say 5' to 3' direction, on one of the strand it will match with the another strand if you read again in the 5' to 3' direction on the complementary strand. We know a double helix is formed by two paired antiparallel strands of nucleotides that run in opposite direction. One example, as we can see here, there is a sequence which is having GATC when we read from the 5' to 3' direction, and in the complementary strand, if I again read it from the 5' to 3' direction, I am going to get again GATC. It means if I read it from this end towards 5' to 3' direction or in the complementary strand from the 5' to 3 direction, they are same. Hence, palindrome sequence are also called as a reverse complement. Now, this palindromic sequence, they play an important role in molecular biology. Example is restriction endonucleases. You might have studied about the restriction enzymes. These enzymes, they recognize specific palindromic sequences and they cut them. For example, a restriction enzyme EcoRY recognizes a particular sequence and it is going to cut only at the sequence. If we say HIND3, it is going to cut at the particular sequence. So all these restriction enzymes are going to cut at this palindromic sequence. Now, how we are going to find out which of the provided sequence is a palindrome? If you are thinking to draw the complementary strand of each of these given sequences, it is just going to waste your time. So what you can do is, I will give you one small trick. As we can see in the sequence, you have G over here and the complementary of G is C and the complementary of A is T. So if you can see similar arrangement in your options, then you can see it is going to be your correct options. For example, if you see here, you have adenine over here and here you expect to be a thymine, but you find a cytosine. So this cannot be a palindromic sequence. If you see over here again you have adenine paired with guanine here, so again this cannot be a palindromic sequence. Cytosine along with the thymine, we expect here to be a guanosine. So again this is not going to be a palindromic sequence. Well, if you see this one here, we have adenine and then you have thymine. Then here you have guanine, then you have cytosine and again guanine and cytosine. So this is definitely going to be a palindromic sequence. If you want to just confirm this, you can draw the complementary strand over here. You know that of thymine it is adenine, you will get a guanine here again, then you will get a cytosine, and here again a thymine. And this is going to be from your 3' to 5' direction. Thus we can see this is a palindromic sequence. I hope this is understood all of you. Let us move ahead to the next question. Question number 18. The two most common processes that lead to the production of multiple functional proteins from same DNA sequences are. Let me first make you understand about the gene expression. As we know, genes which are present in DNA, they contain the information which is needed to make the functional molecules called as proteins. The journey of a gene to a protein is very complex and tightly regulated. It consists of two major steps. One is your transcription and the another one is your translation. During the process of transcription, the information which is stored in your DNA is transferred to a molecule called as your mRNA or your messenger RNA. Now this messenger RNA which is present in the nucleus where transcription takes place, now it comes out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm. And in the next step of translation, you are going to get a protein, and this mRNA is going to interact with a complex called as a ribosome, which is going to read the sequence of the mRNA bases. Now, each sequence of 3 bases, which is called as codon, they code for one particular amino acid. A type of RNA called as the transfer RNA, it will assemble your protein, one amino acid at a time. Now this protein assembly is going to continue until your ribosome encounters a stop codon. Thus we can see the flow of information from DNA to RNA and then to protein is one of the fundamental principle of molecular biology, which is called as the central dogma. Now, between the transcription and translation process, before your functional protein is formed, there are some other processes which are called as post-transcriptional and post-translation modification. This modification is very important for preparing a functional product or a protein having a particular function. Now, as we can see in this question, you have been provided with various options. All these processes are post-transcriptional and post-translational modifications. Now, what they have asked us in the question is, we have to find out 2 most common processes that lead to the production of multiple functional protein from that same DNA sequence. It means you provide a same DNA sequence, you need to form multiple proteins from that same DNA sequence. Are you wondering, is this possible? This is definitely possible. Let us learn about this process first called as RNA editing. Now, RNA editing, it is a molecular process through which some cells can make few changes to a specific nucleotide sequences which are present in your RNA molecule after it has been generated by the RNA polymerase. Now, this occurs in all the living organisms. Now, RNA editing can include some insertion, deletion or substitution of your nucleotides within the RNA molecule. Let us understand about RNA editing from this image. As we can see here, this is a DNA strand, and after transcription you have got a mRNA which is called as the pre-mRNA, because now this is going to undergo some editing. If this pre-mRNA is found in the intestine, it is undergoing certain RNA editing. There is a nucleotide codon called as CAA which codes for glutamine. Now what RNA editing is going to do here is, it is going to replace your cytosine here with uracil. Now once you replace, your CAA gets changed to UAA. As we know, UAA is a stop codon and your protein synthesis is going to get stopped here and you are going to get a protein comprising of only 48 amino acids. Whereas if this same process takes place in the liver, then there is no RNA editing and you are going to get a protein molecule comprising of 100 amino acids. Thus we can see, with the process of RNA editing, using a same DNA strand, you can find different protein molecule. Now let us learn about this alternative splicing with the help of this image. Alternative splicing, which is also known as differential splicing, is a regulated process during the gene expression that results in a single gene coding for multiple proteins. In this process, particular exons of a gene may be included or excluded from the final protein product, which will be processed further to form your protein. As we can see here, there are certain gene sequences which are in this blue colored, green, red, blue and this orange color. These are all exons. Exons are the coding sequences, whereas the sequences of DNA between these exons, they are called as introns, which are the non-coding sequences. And once your mRNA is formed, these introns are removed in the process called as your intron splicing to form your pre-mRNA. Now what happens in alternative splicing is, we will be joining the exons together but in different manner to produce different proteins. For example, as we can see here, if you join exon 1, exon 2, 3, 4 and 5 together and this mRNA undergoes translation, you are going to get your protein A. Whereas if you skip your exon number 3 and if you join just 1, 2, 4 and 5, you are going to get your protein B. Similarly, if you skip your exon number 4, you are going to get a protein C. Thus, we can see with the process of alternative splicing using the same DNA sequence, you can form different types of proteins. I hope now we have got our answer. The answer to the question is RNA editing and alternative splicing. If you see the other options, differential protein folding is a process wherein your protein gets folded in different manner. Protein splicing, this is similar to intron splicing. As we have introns and exons in your RNA, similarly you will have inteins and extins in our proteins, and again over there the intine splicing can take place. Here polyadenylation as well as the capping, 5' capping, all these processes comes under your post-transcriptional modification. Use of enhancers and suppressors lead to the different rate of expression of your protein chain. So hence all these processes are again post-transcriptional, post-translation modification, but they cannot produce multiple functional proteins from the same DNA sequences. I hope you have understood this question. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 12. The nucleotide sequence is provided to us and they have told us that assuming that ribosomes could translate this mRNA, how many amino acid long would you expect the resulting polypeptide chain to be? So this is the given provided sequence. Before going on to solve the amino acids, we should know this something called as the genetic code. We know there are 3 nucleotide codes of your mRNA is going to code for a one particular amino acid, which is called as the genetic code. There are 64 such genetic codes and it is not an easy job to remember all of them. You don't have to remember all of them, students. Just learn a few which I mentioned here. Learn this. UAA, UAG and UGA are going to be the stop codons, and then one more you need to learn, that is AUG is the start codons. So for the ribosome to start, you require AUG sequence. For the ribosome to stop protein synthesis, you require UAA or UAG or UGA sequence. I hope this much is clear. Now let us move ahead to understanding how to solve this. First one over here is UAA. We know UAA is a stop codon, hence no amino acids will be coded. Second one, AUG is a start codon and it codes for methionine. Third, ACC codes for threonine. CAU codes for your histidine. Then you have UGG which codes for tryptophan. Then you have UCU, it codes for serine. CGU codes for arginine. UAG is again a stop codon. So now once it encountered a stop codon, ribosome is going to stop the synthesis and now your polypeptide is removed. Let's move ahead. AAA, that is going to code actually for lysine, but since we are not having a start codon, this cannot add an amino acid. Similarly, the last one is also not going to add an amino acid. Thus, we have got here our polypeptide sequence which comprises of 6 amino acids, namely methionine, threonine, histidine, tryptophan, serine and arginine. So the correct option will be option number 1, 6. Easy to solve, right? Let's move on to the next question. Question number 19. Which of the following statement is false? Now this question is basically about certain channels which are present on the membrane which allow the transport of molecules in and out of the cell. Here we have mentioned about the potassium channel, the porins, the thermogenin as well as gap function. Before moving on to find out which of this statement is false, let us first understand about each of these ion channels. First one is the potassium ion channel. Now ion channels are pores which are forming membrane proteins that allow ions to pass through this channel pore. As we can see in this image, this is a protein called as your potassium channel, which is found in the lipid bilayer, and through this your K plus ions can get inside the cell. Secondly, we are having your porins here. Now porins are water-filled pores and channels which are found in the membrane of bacterium as well as eukaryotes. This is primarily involved in passively transporting hydrophilic molecules of various sizes and charges across the membrane. These porine molecules can also transport certain toxins as well as waste out of the cell. As we can see here, this is your porine, which is going to transport hydrophilic molecules because it is a water-filled channel. Third one is your thermogenin. Now thermogenin is also called as your uncoupling protein, which is found in the mitochondria of your brown adipose tissue. Now these are transmembrane proteins which will use to decrease your proton gradient, which is generated in the oxidative phosphorylation. We know during the oxidative phosphorylation, that is your electron transport chain, during the transport of electron from one electron carrier to the another, protons are pumped from the matrix of the mitochondria to the intermembrane space. Now, in case if the cell do not want to produce ATP and it has to decrease this proton gradient, it can do so by the help of this thermogenin, which will pump this H plus ions back to this matrix. Next is gap junctions. Now, gap junctions are specialized intracellular connections between cells. They directly connect the cytoplasm of two cells and they allow the transport of molecules, ions, certain electric impulses from one cell to the nearby cells. Now these gap junctions are analogous to the plasmodesmata that you have learnt in your plants. So now as we have understood about the four types of the channels provided in the question, let us now go to and find out which of the statement is false. The potassium channel allows potassium ions through the plasma membrane. Definitely potassium channel will allow specifically potassium ions only. Porins allow chloride ion to pass through the plasma membrane. We studied that porins are water-filled channels, hence they will not allow ions like chloride. So this statement is going to be the false statement. If you see, thermogenin allows the H plus to pass from the inner mitochondrial membrane to the matrix, definitely that is going to be a correct option. Similarly, the gap junction pass from the cytosol of one cell to the another, that also is a correct option. So the false statement here is your option number B. So students, we have solved 5 questions in this video and I have also given you detailed explanatory solution to all the questions. I hope this particular explanation will help you not only to solve the mock test, but you can also become confident to solve any questions which will be asked in your exam related to these topics. So thanks for watching this video. If this video was helpful, don't forget to share it to your friends, like the video and subscribe to the channel. One more important announcement, you can find the link to our Telegram channel in the description box below. If you are aspiring for any of this entrance exam, then do join the channel. I will be posting various questions for your practice in that channel as well as certain notes and some video references. So see you all inside the Telegram channel. Thanks for watching this video.